been sorting out obviously the new apartment, been taking a few calls for it. They tried to do introductions and whatnot, left, right, and centre. So I'm going to catch up on it now. Lovely stuff. You pass your Top Step account as well. You got funded on that. That's perfect. Yeah, it's not that easy to change a British passport to something else. I mean, you can't just change nationality that easily. But there is, ways to get a passport easily in different countries, but it does take money. And you have to likely buy some sort of property in certain countries, and you can obtain a passport just from that and an investment. It'd be more of a third world place. No, I won't be looking for an Indian passport. I know some countries in Europe you can get a passport there just from, investing enough in property, land or whatever. Setting up businesses in Portugal. They used to be able to, I don't know if it's still active, but if you create a business in Portugal and you say buy a house there, they do end up potentially, I don't know if it's true, don't take my word for it, do some research, but you might be able to get a Portuguese passport. I don't know if that's true. But with a British passport, I'm not really too worried about getting another passport, maybe in the future. Is he speaking at the moment? I can't tell. Well, you see right now on price action, right? A lot of people are going to be, considering this for a trade. Now, a 1 minute shift in market structure at absolute all-time highs, what is the probable scenario of that playing out? Pretty slim, right? Considering how bullish price action is. And yes, the 15's neutral, the 5's bullish. Okay, so the hourly is still bullish. Well, ES took the high, so you could say it's neutral now. But the bias is bullish based off the 5, and the higher time frames are neutral. Now, just because we're at the all-time highs, and we have a intraday bias is bullish, this is not a trade that you want to take. Just because we shift on the 1 minute does not mean that it's something that you want to consider taking. Now, yes, if we had a actual bearish bias from this point, this trade in front of us and presented would actually be something we'd want to take, right? A shift in NQ and ES, market structure, inverse order block paired with a gap. So yes, it would be something that we would like to take if we had a bearish bias, but we don't. So the bias as of now stands to be intraday bullish, so it's definitely not something we want to consider. Where is the shift on ES? I mean, exactly. Where is the shift on ES? So I've not even considered looking at a shift on ES because the bias is the first thing to pay attention to, and that's the first thing that we don't have. Now, when price is trading at all-time highs, right, we would like to see some sort of higher time frame shift in market structure to shift from bullish to bearish, because right now we are still bullish, regardless whether people think that a lower time frame shift actually shifts price to being bearish. It doesn't. The price action is still bullish. So the actual scenario is that any lower time frame shift is more of a retracement into bullish PD rays to continue back higher again. And yes, we are at all-time highs. Price is due to trade back into the new week opening gap, trade lower into bullish PD rays to fill them imbalances, but we can't dictate a retracement higher time frame off a lower time frame shift. So we need to trade out of some sort of at least 15 hourly bearish imbalance to then dictate we're actually going to trade lower into a discount as far as the overall daily move. So it's like when we take a trade, more times than not, you will see price will hit our 2 to 1, potentially continuing, I can't even say that word, but continuing lower for the rest of the day, running over 500 points, right? And you're going to get the coulda, shoulda, wouldas in the comments section saying that you should have held, bro. But that's because of our bias, and it ends up running throughout the rest of the day. Maverick with the call. Macro 1 ending. Certainly is over. That's the first day of macro. And we're going to be waiting for the second AM. How come, seen being where with the absolute banger question, very good. How come you only target a 2-to-1 risk reward? Now, the reason why we only target a 2-to-1, right, is because for a trade to be valid, it doesn't matter if someone sits there on social media and says, you need to aim for a 5-to-1, a 6-to-1, a 10-to-1 risk reward, okay? Yes, potentially on backtesting, you can catch a 10-to-1 risk reward, right, okay, with a 10% win rate. But if you put it like this, for the trade to be valid, or the trade to meet the objective, such as the first 1 minute low or high in a long or short position, okay, for that to happen, that usually stands around a 2-to-1. Now, if you backtest this, running a 5-to-1 is going to put you at the complete opposing liquidity, right? So, for example, a normal model would consist of an entry around here, a stop loss at the high. Guys, don't take this, please. It's obviously not me telling you it's a trade. And let's say, for example, an average stop loss is about 25 points on a trade, 26, okay? If, for example, we want to do the YouTuber kind of, this is what you need to aim for, 5-to-1, okay? Now, if we took a short around here, let's say price, you know, created a wick higher, and this was our stop loss at a high, okay? And we was aiming for a 5-to-1, or one of those, you know, crazy risk rewards, so around a 5.7 risk reward. For example, Asia lows is the complete opposing liquidity and the daily draw for this trade, okay? Now, the reason why we don't aim for 5-to-1s, etc., is because, for example, this trade's not valid. But if this trade was valid, now the first draw is going to be this low. Okay? So that low is sitting, actually, funnily enough, just around a 2-to-1. So for this trade to be valid, yes, the draw is likely Asia lows and the new week opening gap throughout the course of the day, but we are taking positions on the lower time frame intraday. Okay? So it's important that we target areas in price that for this trade to be valid, it has to draw to the first 1 minute low, and you'd mark that on NQ and ES, and once taken for your 2-to-1 you close out. So the first two draws is this area and this area. Once this is taken, what actually happens more times than not is price would seek a premium or a run on stops before a continuation towards this area, which this is why a lot of traders who would trade, say, for a 5-to-1 risk reward don't actually get it, because they would be taking out in between the trade, either trading too aggressively on their stops, or they would trail correctly and price would seek a sweep of, you know, lower time frame liquidity of people's stops whilst it trades lower. It doesn't just trade algorithmically all the way down. That's one of those trades that you see 2 or 3 times a month, right? What usually happens is that price would trade to the first draw area, retrace back usually to a break-even area or where people's stops are supposed, and then after that, then trade lower to the next objective, retrace, trade lower to the final objective. Hopefully that answers the question on why we aim for a 2-to-1 and not a 5-to-1 risk reward, is because, yes, we have a higher win rate. We make less than a 5-to-1, but the probability of a 5-to-1 does not play in favor for, say, this model. If you're trading more of a higher risk to reward, you're more or less looking on the higher time frame. So for example, let's say we took an entry on the 15-minute time frame, which we don't, then you'd run it as some sort of 15-minute high and you could target more of a higher risk to reward. But on the lower time frame, this model only plays out to the first 1 minute low or high, and after that usually has some sort of retracement. So hopefully that, you know, makes sense to you guys there. let me also give you guys another scenario of why we don't take these type of positions with a neutral bias. Now, for example, when you're trading at all-time highs, what does price like to continue to do? It likes to continue to make all-time highs and take out the next high and the next high and the next high. Now, you guys probably haven't experienced this, but a scenario that saves you is our bias. Now, if I explain, is that, for example, what you will see at a point of all-time highs, okay, is these types of lower time frame shifts in market structure, which trap a lot of ICT traders into taking a short, and this would occur over and over and over again. Now, an ICT trader without a set of rules to stop themselves from trading potentially will blow their accounts on that day, or end up taking this type of trade with a neutral bias. Now, more times than not, these type of shifts in market structure, but not on ES, etc. But let's say we had it on both, would make a lot of ICT traders end up taking a short around this period. Now, in the scenario that price continues to make a high upon a high, shifting lower, making a high, shifting lower, making a high, essentially in a bullish scenario, so retracing, catching ICT traders as liquidity, continuing higher and trading higher. Now, on that type of day, ICT traders would blow their accounts, right? Now, this is the most probable scenario of what usually happens with price action. Obviously, we are already in a deep premium, but not to say that price wouldn't continue higher into more of a premium today, right? So, to avoid having lower time frame shifts with a neutral bias, the neutral bias actually saves you from taking trades like this, from when price will then trade higher, hit your stop. And then it would take out this high, retrace, ICT traders will go short again, trade higher, and take the next high. It will go into the next macro. It would displace, it would then trade back to the high, and continue to make highs at all-time highs. This is why our bias is so important, and you don't want to go outside of it, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Now, if there is ever a point that you're sat there and thinking, are we ever going to take a trade? That's obviously the gambling side of your brain and the impulsive side of your, yourself wanting it all now. When with this model, or any model that you trade, if you actually have a model, a lot of people, they don't even have a model, right? They just look at price action, it sweeps, and then it inverses a gap, and they take anything that falls under the sun, right? But when you actually have a model, you're patient to wait for it, because following that model, you're profitable. And trading outside of it, guess what? You lose money. You lose money. The amount of positions that we avoided last week that trailed and hit people's stops. What people last week do you know that closed in a profit trading outside of the model? You don't. Or very few. And if you picture them on a higher time frame, throughout the course of closing out each quarter, I guarantee you I close out in more of a profit. Now, I'm not going against people's models and the way that they trade, but I don't know many people. If you don't have an understanding on where something is going to go in anywhere in life, you shouldn't be taking it, right? It's like overtaking a car, not knowing if they're going to go right or left or slam their brakes on. You're not going to overtake them, are you? You're going to go flying off your bike. Because otherwise, one day you'll end up dead. It's the same with your accounts. What made you move away from taking partials to taking a full 2-to-1? Okay, so obviously what I spoke about previously of price actually trading all the way to a 5-to-1 or a 3-to-1 or anything over a 3 to 1, to be exact, is a very low probability, and for the trade to be valid, it's already met many objectives along the way. Okay, now with taking partials, it's an illusion to say, oh, I made money today. Okay, but when you take a loss, you're actually at almost a negative R. And picture it like this. If you run your first TP, for example, at 25 or 30 points, usually they run their first TP at 1 to 1. Okay, so if you're risking 30 points, your first TP is at 30 points. That's usually how people take partials, right? So essentially you're closing out at 1 to 1. Usually that first TP at 30 points is the first objective of where you would start to trail your stops. The second TP would be at, say, 75% of the trade, and the final TP would be at the final objective. Now, 2 to 3 times out of the 15 trades you take that month, only around, let's say, 2 or 3 of the scenarios actually trade all the way to the final objective. So final TP happens 2 or 3 times out of 15, which gives you a point of, let's say, 6%, 8%, around that. So 8% of your trades run to final objective, okay? So now we've got that probability down. It leaves you down to a 70% partial. Now, second TP usually occurs, I would say, around half of the time. So half, or just a little bit more than half, you would happen to get your second TP, which would be our 2 to 1. So you're getting a 70% partial at the 2 to 1, okay? And you're closing half of your position at 25 or 30 points, okay? Now, for example, if you only get your first TP and price trades back to break even, or it trades back to your stop loss, usually after first TP you would be at break even anyway, okay? If on the next trade you then take a loss, you're then at a 0.5 R. So you've lost money because you close 50% at 30 points, so you've only secured 50% loss on your next trade, considering if it was a loss. So you're actually at negative R. The actual maths behind it, it's an illusion to say, you know, it's very easy for me to sit there and say, guys, we made money today, but in the actual longer term, you know, you're not profitable or as profitable trading using partials. You can't sit there and say that you secured 30 points. You secured 15 points. If you close out 50% at 30 points, you've only secured 15 points on real money and position size. Okay, so if on the next trade you lose 30 points, you're down 15 points, considering it's the same dollar amount risk. Okay. So in order to be profitable, you need to get your 50%, 60% scenario towards second TP and your 8% scenario of final TP to actually play out in order for you to be profitable. Which, remember, final TP doesn't usually happen. But what usually does happen is that price will trade first objective, and that's where I close out and take all of my money off the table, instead of waiting and waiting for an objective that happens on an 8% probable scenario at 5 to 1 for Asia lows. Feel free to backtest partials versus taking out fully at a 2 to 1. Now, as price reaches a 1 to 1, the idea of the fib at 50% is that once price reaches a 1 to 1, taking out a low or a high. I know it might sound like I'm waffling, but let me try help you guys understand this, right? So let's say there is a trade that we took, and let's say this was our TP and this was our entry. Let's say this, okay? We use the fib tool from our TP to break even. So what happens, okay? Let's put it at 2 to 1, because that's usually where we are pretty close to a 2 to 1. The point of 50% is 1 to 1. Okay, that's 1 to 1. So what usually happens, if price takes out a short-term low or high past 50% or creates an imbalance with the trade past 50% to confirm that it should continue algorithmically and not retrace back to break even. Okay? That's where we minimize our risk at a 1-to-1. We don't take a partial or anything. What we do is we minimize our risk to nothing once we take out a low or high past 50% or creating an imbalance past 50% with the trade. So we assume the imbalance is respected, or we take the low and we do not assume that to be liquidity, but for price to actually continue lower and algorithmically trade towards the objective. That's where we trail to break even. And then as price creates and takes out other lows around 79%, etc., as we trade lower, we can then further trail our stops to a 1 minute high accordingly with the trade. So hopefully that makes sense on why we don't take partials, and that's how we maximize our risk in the best scenario as price trades in favor. Because the only thing that you have to think about, when you've taken a position, you're only managing your risk. So all you're assuming is that the trade plays in favor. You don't care if price runs to your stop. Okay, easy trade. That was it. But we assume as the next step, for example, let's say, for example, we took a short here. Obviously, I'm not saying this is valid at all. It's not. Otherwise, we would have took it. Price trades lower and takes out the first low. As soon as it takes out the first low, you trail your stops to the most recent short-term high. So as price took out that first low, you trail to this high, okay, which you can see. You would leave your stops at that high until you get over 50% at TP. So potentially one of these lows would be around 50%. That's when you would shift to break even. And then if we was to create a bearish imbalance or a point that we could trail further, which there wouldn't have been, you would then trail into a profit. Yeah, so hopefully that, makes more sense on how we manage our risk, why we don't take partials, etc. Most people showing you the big 1 to 20 Rs so they can get more clicks. Yeah, exactly, They're trying to show you things that are on hindsight, or they're not going to show you the trade live, whatnot. But I'm here to make money. So I'm telling you guys what makes money. We're not here for showboating and saying about something that has a very low probability chance of even playing out, etc. It's very easy, guys, It's very easy. As long as you have your model down, you know what you're looking for, which I talk to you guys about every day. Manu, any plans? So you got some very good questions, Muneb Ashir. You got some good questions, Any plans to go on a podcast? Like, I don't know about the Asram, but I know Words of Wisdom. I spoke to him over email. He wanted me to come on the podcast of the Words of Wisdom. Maybe soon, He's in London. I don't plan on going back to London. He said, can you come down to London to film a podcast? And I said no. But he does film podcasts out in Dubai, so there will come a time, that we'll be able to meet up and film in Dubai. That'll be interesting. I remember you once mentioned that you don't like to interact with people outside your circle. Yeah, I just, I'm friendly with people, but I can't really be bothered, to be honest. They never show me any sort of value anyway. What's the point in going out trying to meet new people? I'm not being antisocial, but more cases than not of what I've experienced is that people try take and learn because they're not on a similar level, right? Majority of people, depends where you're at, not always looking from a standpoint on trying to take from other people, but that's what people have a standpoint when they was to say, when they meet other people, they're looking to get some sort of value and knowledge, and they have nothing to offer. So I keep my circle relatively small, to be honest. Pretty content with being alone or being with a small group of friends. As soon as you start bringing newer people into your space, especially if they're not coming from the start, that's when things go south. That's when things go wrong, and you get You get done over. You need more vlogs. Yeah? Do you guys see the other vlog the other day, yeah? There was it was an older vlog. It wasn't new. It was the one over in what do you call it? In the US with the car. Yeah, New York. It was a New York, Houston, Miami, kind of bit of everything vlog, wasn't it? I think one person commented they couldn't believe how young I was. Yeah. Am I young? Yeah. Reversing down the duel. Yeah, that's jokes. I missed the turning, and I was like, you know what? I'm not missing this turning because the Cullinan was going to run out of fuel. So, you know, I just reversed all the way. When's my birthday? Well, it was a few months ago, you know, in July 13th, 2004. Yeah, 2004. How do I pronounce my surname? I mean, it depends where I'm at in the world. People like say different things, but it's Trelaw, so Trelaw. You say it Trelaw. But if I'm in like a Spanish-speaking country, people like to say Milo, Milo, all different names, you know. So I don't really care what you guys was to call me. Where am I from? So my family is part Italian and my dad's side is English. So my mum's side is part Italian and my dad's side is English. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? You know, when you go out to like Alabama and places like that, you really realize like how people are living, and the houses there, I really had to just hop out and just film them. Some horror movie houses there, you know. Whereabouts in Italy is my mum's family from? Naples. Naples. 7 plus 1 plus 3 plus 2. What? What are you talking about? Your 8 life path. That's a calculation and a half, isn't it? What does that mean? 8 life path. So, you know, going back to price action on what we spoke about previously, the most probable scenario, I know, yes, it trickled lower and whatnot and took out other points of minor sell side. We don't essentially care about that. But what I was saying to you guys is that when you're trading at all-time highs with a neutral bias, it protects us from taking lower time frame shifts. Okay, so what you'll see is that prices trailed back to say bullish imbalances, bullish PD rays, bullish order blocks, etc. And then it's continued to make another all-time high. And this is what happens when you're at all-time highs. The most probable scenario is that price continues to make all-time highs until you get some sort of higher time frame shift. And the way to trade at all-time highs is either price retraces enough to take out a point of sell side following a bullish bias to then take longs to then make another all-time high. Taking shorts more or less doesn't happen until we have some sort of higher time frame shift. If you backtest all-time highs, taking shorts is a very low probability scenario unless we have some sort of higher time frame shift. So like we seen around, you know, a week ago when we had that higher time frame shift, okay, like this is when this higher time frame shift from tariffs, when Trump spoke, this allowed us to take many positions. Well, not many positions, we barely took any positions, but between this period I took a few positions for shorts and capitalized off that because of that higher time frame shift. It allowed us to work out of a bearish bias on the higher time frame. As price nears all-time highs, the scenarios that where we take a short is that we've already had a price to shift to around London lows, and then we work up into a premium on the lower time frame to then work back down to a point of sell side, or we trade lower and take sell side to trade back to all-time highs. So hopefully that makes sense. That's how you trade all-time highs. That's the key right there. Chat's going a bit crazy. I need to catch up. Let's have a look. Alright, 8 life path. Someone explain to me what 8 life path means. Chase, brother, I've not understood that. I'm going to have to ask ChatGPT. One sec. Hello, ChatGPT, mate.
Hey there, what's up? Let me know what you're in the mood for today, and
Nah, listen up. I'm not in the mood. So, just tell me, what does the 8 life path mean, and just give me the ins and outs ASAP.
Absolutely no worries. I'll jump right into it. So, an 8 life path in numerology is basically all about power, ambition, and material success.
Okay, mate. Alright. Sounds good. Sounds good. Unless it takes out major high or higher time frame. So much common sense. What do you ask your barber for? I mean, a lot of people say that my trim's pretty cooked, to be honest. I've had, what, 3 different haircuts in my lifetime. I've just settled with this now because it's easy to maintain. So I just, you know, catch a fade and then just get a line up on the top. But as far as like a different haircut, the only other haircut that I would consider is I would grow out the top to be longer, like way longer, right? And then I would just like have it back. But that's like maintenance, you know, that's maintenance. You got to put like products in it, hair loss products, right? And I'm not here to be styling hair, so that's the only, you know, like the Tristan Tate haircut, you know, and you have it back, whatever, and you have like longer sides or whatever. Maybe in the future, you know, I'll probably get something like that. But right now I'm not really too fussed about hair, to be honest. So I've just cut it short. And I just, you know, get a fade or whatever and a line up. Pretty much it. I mean, you know, I don't really like ChatGPT, to be honest. It did actually end up me in jail in the US because of ChatGPT. He told me if I leave Florida in the Rolls-Royce, that I'll be good. I got into Texas, and then that's when they pulled me over. They said that the tag on the plate, from when I took it from the tow car company, they said that if I left Florida, it wouldn't show up on other police that my car has a little tag on the plate, but it did show up, you know, so it went a bit crazy. You can't trust ChatGPT, you know, AI's probably notified the feds. And you can see, look, yet again, as we're now in the second day of macro, watch price then shift lower again, and then ICT traders are yet again saying, oh, let's take a short, bearish SMT on ES. Yes, you can continue to take short after short after short, and likely scenarios that it doesn't trail lower in taking out these sort of lows here, and it just runs to your stop, and you get stopped, and you get stopped, and you get stopped. That's what happens. This is why at all-time highs, everyone's complaining. And they're making these face-the-camera videos on Instagram saying, oh, bro, I wish price could retrace. Trading all-time highs is so difficult, man. I don't know what to do. Yeah, you don't know what you're doing. That's why. Because that's why you're getting stopped out. Because you don't know what you're doing. You know? Where do you want to see price pull back to? Well, it either trades lower enough to create a 5 and 15 minute bearish bias, trading out of an imbalance there, or we just trade and take out sell side And taking out that point of sell side there would be enough to give price a bullish bias, and we can trade with the higher time frame order flow. Okay, back to all-time highs. $141 people, but the same 10 people in the chat. Yeah. Now, some people, they just, they're locked in. They're here to learn, and, everyone's here to learn. Everyone's learning. Some people like to get a few things off their chest in the chat, Get a few words out. If you guys are new or whatever, drop a message in the chat if you want to ask any questions, or you want me to explain something in price in front of you. See, ISD traders right now absolutely jumping out of their chairs for this one here. They can't believe their eyes. Another lower time frame shift. No gap on NQ, no gap on ES, no shift on ES. I got asked the 100th time, because I'm retarded, it's okay. We're all retarded in our own ways. But for a unicorn to be valid, we need a fair value gap creating the market structure shift. No, we don't need a fair value gap creating the market structure shift. That in itself, a fair value gap which creates a shift in the same candle is a breakaway fair value gap. So you're getting confused between a breakaway gap and a shift in market structure. So we don't need both at the same time. We just need a gap. Actually, instead of me boring people that know, if you scroll on Discord to the top of the channel and click on the section checklist guide, if you just look at the checklist guide, that is the exact steps of what we look for. Exact steps, exactly what we look for. From bias to entry for the model, it's all there. What about setup that happens in 30 minutes something? Not really understanding that one, brother. I think in our edge, how we determine bias is very unique and it creates a whole difference. IST traders trade seeing liquidity sweeps and boom, they enter. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. I think he means, what if the setup forms on the 30-minute time frame? What do you mean if it happens on the 30-minute time frame? I don't understand. It wouldn't be trading inside of the macro though, would it? Because you're trading on the 30-minute time frame, so you're looking for a 30-minute entry and about 6 hours for it to play out. So you're more of a holding throughout the course of the day. Have you ever backtested setup that happens on the 30-minute time frame sometimes? No. What's the point? What's the point? Why'd we backtest the 30-minute time frame? Why you say specifically the 30-minute? Why not the 15, the 5, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the daily? Why you ask that question? I don't understand. So the reason the 1 hour is neutral because ES took out the high. Okay. ISD traders falling out of their chair for this one. They've seen a shift on NQ and a shift on ES. They can't believe it. Following no bias. I've tried different methods / models and never been consistent. Right now I want to improve in one model, stay disciplined and compound my wins. Well, you said it yourself, compound your wins. Now that obviously comes with time. And if you sit there throughout the course of 1 week and think, why have you not made any money? Then you're not actually giving yourself long enough to have some sort of probable edge. You need to take at least 50 to 100 positions to then have some sort of data that you can say, this is my average win rate and this is my average risk to reward. And then from that point, you can then look at your losses and your wins and what is the cause behind majority of losses. Is there something that repeats? Is it because what happens when you trade into a 5-minute opposing gap? Does that have some sort of effect? And this is all things that I've, really broken down, and that's why we have the model that we have today. So yeah, if you really want to narrow down one model, take a look at the checklist, backtest it over and over again, get really familiar with it, understand it, be patient with it and let it present. There's no point putting work in to learn a model to then take something which isn't the model. It is very boring, I know, and sitting here waiting for the model to present itself, it never usually takes obviously this long, but in the circumstance of trading at all-time highs, this is generally what usually happens, right? So there's not as many positions for us to take until we get back into the range of price, or we take sell side. But at the same time, we are avoiding so many losses, so many that other people are taking. They must love taking losses, or they're just misled. So let's mark out this bearish order block here so you guys can reference it. We traded higher and then the next candle engulfed the up close candle, creating a bearish order block. So for example, if that was to be inversed, then it would form a breaker block because we've taken out a low after creating it. But at the same time, there's plenty of weeks that we're going to have. We take 4 or 5 trades in the week. And there's weeks like last week when there wasn't actually any trades. Are we going to take a position this week? I'll give it a 95% chance that we will. I'll be very surprised. It'll be the first time in my career if we had 2 weeks in a row of no trades. We'll likely get some sort of position today if we trade and take out sell side. I appreciate the people that left reviews as well. I know obviously as of now it's been a slow start. We are up currently 1.2R on the group. We had a winning trade, another small winning trade, and then a loss that was avoidable last Monday. And I've seen obviously people have taken a few different payouts, whatnot, get funded, so it's great to see. But it's only the start. We have the rest of Q4 and the start going into next year's. It's absolutely amazing. Lovely set of price action. Backtested August for passing a 50k combine this weekend. I also randomly picked some all-time highs over the last few years with mixed luck. TradeZella trading is a little underwhelming. The timing is off. What do you mean the timing is off? It shouldn't be. Backtesting on TradeZella's perfectly fine. Someone's dropped a pregnant emoji there. How did you find backtesting August? How did you find it? I closed that month around 12, 14 hour and a profit. 200k payout. August was easy. Yeah. Doesn't matter what month you backtest. You know, July was profitable. Milo, do you backtest every day or week? How long average? I backtest for around, 2 hours on Saturday, on the weekend. I sit there and look back through the trades that I would have taken, I have taken, etc. So I just like to reflect on the week. I look at both my winning trades. If I only have winning trades that week, I still backtest my winning trades to see if they were avoidable trades. I know I don't obviously to avoid a winning trade, okay? From a standpoint of mistakes, I'm looking to see if any winning trades there was a mistake made, Now, I don't actually backtest and look and see that I made a mistake, ever. But in the early stages, and to stay on top of everything, it's very important that you do. Backtest all of the trades that you do take. Here's that iced tea short that's about to fail. I mean, the probability lies that yes, it does fail because otherwise we would take it, right? So as far as bias, the bias sits as intraday bullish, so it's likely to continue higher following the bias. I know it's not a strong bias, it's likely to continue higher. So it's just these lower time frame retracements and then all-time highs. Lower time frame retracements, all-time highs. I don't know if you guys have experienced this trading, say, previously with models that you traded before, but trading all-time highs, you get these lower time frame retracements, you enter a short and then you get stopped out and you find it quite stressful, all-time highs. Now, you guys might have experienced that trading by yourself before, but this is why, as far as bias, and yes, there is a probable side that these types of setups, they do play out and they do run all the way to London lows, easily happen, right? And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for price to trade to London lows so we can get a bullish bias to trade back towards a premium. Either way, we're in a higher time frame premium regardless of London lows. And the actual probability is against us to taking positions like this, okay? Would you recommend getting new evals now as we're almost in November or wait for January? No, definitely get evals now. You definitely, if you're able to get an eval, okay, you definitely want to get on the bandwagon, right? You want to make sure that you have as many accounts as possible in the back. Whether you've got funded accounts and you're just grouping on those. So you see there we've got a bullish order block, okay? So I'm just marking this out so you guys get familiar with it. Trades into the bullish order block. Took out the high, so if it inverses it, it would be a breaker. As of now, it acts as a bullish confluence. So, as far as evals, if you've got a funded account right now, just run the evals in the background, their pass. And then, if you're using Trade Syncer because you're running multiple different Tradivate prop firms, okay, run your evals in the background of that. You won't even notice, but they're just pass in the background, and then you'll get a notification that they pass in about 2-3 weeks. There's never a bad time to purchase an eval. It doesn't matter if you're in a losing streak, a winning streak, whenever. Where do I get one? Well, it would be best that you start with Top Step, get 5 evals with them, but don't fully load up the truck, you know. You don't want to get too many evals. If you've not got that many funded accounts, don't just go head deep in having like 20 evals, okay? Start with, say, 2 or 3, nothing crazy. Pass those 2-3 evals that you start off with, okay? And then once they're funded, work them towards a payout, take them up to a balance of around 3.5k in a profit. Take 1.5 from each one, so that'll be 1.5 times 3. It's a nice little 4.5k payout there that you'd have. You can put 2.5 and go spend it, you know, with a few females or whatever that you take out. Keep the other 2k and get 5 to 10 more evals, including activation fee. So you've got 10 more evals there. You've maxed that prop firm, you've maxed another one, you've started into another one. So you've got Top Step, Take Profit, and a few My Fundeds. And you've got money over for the activation after, okay? And you've still taken, you know, a ting out for a stake or whatever you want to do, right? It's just the start. You'll be taking stakes every day. But at the start, you can put 2.5 to the side. 2, you can apply to getting 10, 12 more accounts first. No females right now locked in. See, that's what you gotta be. Especially in the starting stages. You don't want to be dealing with females. They're a distraction and they're only going to set you back. They actually come as no benefit, right? Sorry for the females in the group, but as a male standpoint and optimal male performance, females only slow you down. They do. As bad as it sounds, they do slow you down. They can make you breakfast, they can give you a massage, okay? They can put you in a more low test kind of mindset where you're a lot more relaxed, but in order for optimal male performability, you need to be stressed and you need to act fast. And if you've got someone slowing you down, you know, it's not going to get you to your first goal, second goal, third goal fast enough. So if you are around a like-minded friend, okay, and you're both hitting gym together, you're both eating clean, you're both backtesting on Saturday, Sunday, or even if you're doing it by yourself, it doesn't matter. That's the best point to be in. That's where you have no one intercepting your best thoughts, right? If you're sat there by yourself, there is no one apart from yourself creating the best optimal thoughts on how to improve and what you're making a mistake on. But if someone's always there kind of intercepting your thought process, then you're distracted. Doesn't matter if you got ADHD or not. A distraction's a distraction. But you know, once you got 10 funded accounts and you're on more of the comfy side, so you got 2 prop firms, 2 5 funded accounts, okay? You got some evals running in the background. That's when you start enjoying life a little bit more. No trading friend. Sadly, he's stuck in the matrix. I mean, never, you know, what do you call it? Never, you know, make fun of someone who's working a job, because that's always the stepping stone. For someone that comes from humble beginnings, it's always the stepping stone to getting off the ground, right? So, you know, I've worked probably the most amount of jobs than 99% of people, you know. I'm saying the amount of jobs. I'm not saying the time that I've worked in the job. Many people have worked longer than I have, but I'm saying the amount of jobs that I got sacked from was probably about 15 or 20 jobs. Construction worker, delivery driver, warehouse, cleaner. I did every job, I think, on the whole CV list, got sacked from them all. And that was the stepping stones for me getting a few £1,000 and dollars together to then put it into different businesses that I was starting at the start. So it's actually very, very good to not quit your job and not go all in to ICT. I mean, if you're in this group, you're automatically profitable, and if you can support yourself for, say, a few months, then great, because you'll get paid out. But as far as someone watching the 2022 by themselves, you don't want to be leaving your job and going all in, because you're really going to struggle and have a lot of pressure on yourself, and you will end up taking trades which aren't part of the model just so you can try speed up that process, and all the progress that you did make from when you were disciplined and taking the right trades, and then you try to speed up the process, you'll go back to the square one, and then you've wasted a whole month and you're back in the same position where you was at the start of the month. Just like that. And then you start getting stressed and you start running low on funds, and then you have to go back and get a job again. So it's best you stay in the job, you know, you cut the shifts down a little bit and you don't work as hard, and if you get sacked, who cares? We're not here to work for another business, are we? So I got sacked from so many, I didn't really care. I was there doing minimal effort, barely even doing the job, sat in the toilet, watching ICT and listening to podcasts. It's no problem, sack me, I don't care. I'll go get another one the next day. Walk back into the recruitment agency, hi, I need another job. No problem, you start tomorrow, okay. And then I walked in the next day and I said, look, I've been paid out, I'm done, bye. So that's where you gotta, that's what you gotta look at. But don't, you know, put yourself under pressure, in, especially in an industry like this, where you do have to wait and you have to be patient, and something that makes you impatient, don't put yourself in that scenario by leaving your job and you will need it now, right? Struggle and depression is real. I mean, you know, that depression shit is not real. Now, yes, some people's lives can be very bad at some points, and some lives can be very good, but you still have to turn up and do the same thing every day, regardless of what happens in your life, right? Unless your health absolutely deteriorates to the point where you're gonna die, then yes, that is a point where things change and you can't do your daily activities. But it doesn't matter how bad your life is or how good your life is, you should always perform the same and continue to have the same amount of output. So, you know, I don't actually believe in depression. A lot of people that are sat there being sad, you're only making yourself worse by being more sad. Why think about being sad? You know, people would be like, oh, this, you know, I've got depression. It's not a fucking illness. You know, you're not actually sat there with a cancerous or Ebola. You're not sat there with like, oh, he's just caught Ebola, he's caught depression. No. You can choose to be happy. It doesn't matter how bad your life is. You can always sit there and be like, I'm happy, I'm working towards this. And if you're working towards something, I guarantee if you start going gym, you start, you know, improving your physique, you'll look in the mirror and you're like, holy shit, you know, I'm not fat anymore, I'm now getting into a better shape. Or I'm not skinny anymore, I'm actually getting bigger, I'm eating better, I'm working towards this business. In 1 or 2 months, you will not be a depressed, skinny, you know, or fat, whatever you are. You know, you're not going to have that same mindset. You only are in that perception is because your body is not happy. And if you're not happy, you need to figure out what is the reason to why I'm not in a good state of mind. What is actually the reason which is setting you back? And it's always the output. If you're not, you know, if you're actually, you know, when I was doing 6-7 days a week, 12-hour shifts every single day, and I was working 2 different jobs, I didn't have time to sit there and think, oh, fuck, you know, it's a bit depressing. I didn't even have time to think about that, you know. Someone was saying, pass this scaffolding, let's cut this down, let's sand this. You know, I didn't have to, whilst I was sanding, I'm not thinking I'm depressed. I didn't have time for that. So if you've got time to even think that you're depressed, then that's a problem in itself, and that's a lack of output, right? That's my 2 cents on it. So I'm saying, like, people inside this group, we're not fucking losers, right? We're winners. So we don't have time to even sit there or even type a message like that. That's not in our realm, right? What is it make 0.5% or 1% improvement and double your income in 10 years? Yeah, it's just really the level of output, and it really does compound. Let's put that in a trading standpoint. If you improve 0.5% per day, okay, and let's say by the end of the week, you've then passed an eval. In 2-3 weeks, you've passed, say, 2 or 3 evals. Those evals then end up compounding and then work towards a payout, okay? And that 0.5% that you become better per day, or 0.1% that you become better every single day, whether that's you improving on backtesting, if you've got time to backtest, just backtest a little bit more, okay? Or you've watched some insightful videos that have helped you with your discipline and stop becoming this impulsive, give me everything now type of trader, okay? That's 0.1% better each day. After 2-3 weeks, you've passed some evals. Cool. You're now funded. You then start some more evals with your current job income in the background. And it doesn't matter what job you work right now. You work a job. If you're working a job, you work a job that suits your trading time. This is your main income. This is your main business. Maybe you've not pulled money out of the market yet. Cool. But you quit the job. If it doesn't work with the times that you trade, you leave. I was working night shifts to make sure that my business and my number one, I had time for it. Made sure. That's number one. You don't let the job dictate what time that you're available. No. If the job affects you, then you leave that job. You start something else, even if you make less. Couldn't give a rat if I was making 5k a month in a job or making 2k a month in a job. Okay, I'd rather make 2 and have time for the business that's going to make me 100k a month and scale it up and up and up and up. And with you becoming 0.1% better per day, okay, you're going to find it very much compounds. So as you improve and improve, in a month's time, you've then got evals, which are then are already funded, and then they're getting paid. And then payments that you receive, you're putting some to the side for a crypto portfolio. Some are going back into getting more evals, scaling up your capital. And then they're going into your live account as well. So now you're making more on the live. You're making more on the funded accounts. Your crypto portfolio is there for the time inside of the Discord that we say that there's a position to take. And your real estate portfolio is growing as well. The real estate pocket. It doesn't mean that you take a prop firm payout and then you're buying a house, okay? At the starting stages, you're not buying a house with a 2k payout. But if you put the money into real estate, crypto, and live, and you split it like that, and I recommend 40% goes real estate pot, 30% goes to your trading live account, okay? And 20% goes to your crypto portfolio, and 10% goes to your emergency funds, which you don't touch. If a tenant doesn't pay rent or, something else on the riskier positions above end up failing, which they don't, you have that there, right? Let's say you get shot, you fall off a bike, you got to pay 100 racks for a new leg. Worst case, you got the 100 racks, cool. Your leg's fine, okay? So yeah, that's how it compounds. Very much does. At the start, when you're at the start, guys, you're going to find it to be very slow. If you've got no funded accounts, you're going to think, oh, this is so slow. I'm always waiting to pass an account. It's slow at the start. It is. It's very slow. Once you get that first funded account, you're not worrying about passing accounts anymore. The evals are just running in the background. Do you save a portion for taxes? I don't pay taxes. I don't know what that is. What is that? I'm going to bank 2 million, then I'm out, going to spend the rest of my life surfing the world, endless summer. To be honest, I think you'd be in hostels with 2 million. For the rest of your life, it's not that much money, brother. I reckon it's going to be quite difficult. I mean, if you invest it correctly, okay, if you took 2 mil and you had 3, 4 Even 5 places paying you a very easy 10k, 15k per month in total, then you could say, okay, then you could live off that. You wouldn't be living crazy, be living though. But why stop? Why make money and then stop? I don't understand. Why would you make 2 million? Why wouldn't you want to make 10 or 20? It doesn't take that much time of the day to monitor price for 3 hours. And I'll tell you how much it is to sit there and have that relaxation live. It does eventually become a very non-purposeful life. It's great to, to do what you want, but you need some sort of purpose. If you know what I mean. You need some sort of activity that you have to kind of be disciplined towards that activity, if that makes sense, Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So you can see on price action is that we've traded lower, we've made a new all-time high. Okay, we've traded lower. IST traders have then, they really couldn't believe the rise about this one, and then they was absolutely fell out of their seats to take shorts here, and then it made another all-time high again. So I've seen this so many times. That's why I say this to you guys about this, how it works, all-time highs. So it does retrace, extend, retrace, and back to all-time highs. Likely doing it again. Okay, even though we're outside of macro, this is what happens. Ash 10 with the gay PA message. I mean, it is gay. Yeah. It's gay PA, yeah. But we're trading it as the best way we can possible. What are you saying, Ash brother? You good, yeah? Or maybe Ash is streaming and he can't hear me again. Why you paused your Discord last time you took a break? I think back then I needed to refine my model, because I was trading differently last time we was live streaming, slightly differently. So I really had to, take some time to refine my model. Now we closed out the year with a very crazy result. It was very, very nice closure for 2024. Did over 650k in payouts, and I grew my live account and actually doubled it. So it was very, very good year. And same with this year as well. We're on track for the biggest out of all the years that I've had over the last 3.5 years of profitability with ICT. Now, I had to refine the model, and I also say that a lot of the same questions were getting asked in the chat every single day, and I needed a peace of mind to trade by myself for quite a few months. But that's why we're back now. We're back on a new refined, not new, but refined, more specific, more clear model that you guys can watch every single day at 9:20 a.m. New York time. We go live. And if there's a opportunity, we are taking it, guys. We're not here to shy away from an opportunity. I did start to gamble, end up losing 10 funded accounts. That's what happens. Going to your ends, Bournemouth, Halloween night. What, is that tonight, Halloween, or is it in a few days? For a rave. Gonna get some content this Saturday, yeah? They don't really do Halloween in Thailand, to be honest. I think it's against the Buddha or whatever it is. I've never been a fan of Halloween. Already parties in general. I don't mind the club. I actually haven't been to the club in 2-3 weeks. But yeah, the Halloween in the UK or the US is quite a big thing, right? Bournemouth is actually cooked. Such a dump. It is. It really is. I went back there a few weeks ago. I just I wasn't at the point where I couldn't believe my eyes. I really could believe my eyes. I know how bad the UK's got, and it really is getting worse every single time I go back. I'm from Bournemouth, you know. I was born in Poole Hospital, so I know how shit Bournemouth is, and it didn't really used to be that bad, and it really has got worse over the years, and it's falling apart. Crazy. One person's from Guildford. In Guildford, I believe I delivered in Guildford before when I was doing the Amazon delivery. Might have delivered you a parcel once, a damaged one, maybe. You know, I didn't really take care of the Amazon packages back in the day. Brighton. Oh no. Brighton's one in itself. What's that? The gay capital of the UK. I mean, Brighton is. I went Brighton. Never want to go there again. I'm sure you'll be out of there shortly, brother. I know you want to leave Brighton. Brighton looks like a haunted LA with their pier and their Ferris wheel on the pier or whatever. I can't lie, I do like, as far as the UK, I think Bournemouth might be one of the best places, in my opinion, in the UK. It's got the beach, it's got nothing, but it's probably one of the best places in the UK. Cornwall's nice. I think Cornwall's more of the only survivable UK place that hasn't been infested. Of people from outside the UK or whatnot. I mean, when you go up to London, you don't meet, English people. You meet like the whole world's nationality in London. London's like, they accept anyone now. So it's not a country. It's whoever wants to go there, you can just live there. It's more of it's like a global nationality now. Any surfing in Bournemouth? Probably not. I don't think so, no. I mean, some people do surf in Bournemouth, but it's very, very cold. The sea probably give you frostbite in about 2 seconds, and the likelihood of you catching a wave, you really got to time the way that the moon's moving and the waves, because sometimes you'll get a few waves, but I've never really surfed in my life. In the UK, I think the best thing that people do, so they don't get frostbite, but they do that windsurfing. Whatever it is, they do that stuff with the wind. But as far as the waves, they're not as good as like Australia, But yeah, as soon as it creeps over 20 degrees in the UK, that beach down Bournemouth gets quite busy, They really do like to get their pink skin out and catch some frostbite in the sea or whatever. How's Bath? Yeah, I think Bath's like one of those like surviving places that's still got UK heritage. It's quite nice in Bath, apparently. More peaceful. Old people. Not my cup of tea though. Yeah, I think Bath's like one of the nicer places. How long to get to Portugal from the UK? It's got to be about, 2.5 hour flight? Yeah, not too long. Spain's about hour and a half, I think. Hour? Not long. Yeah, I think Spain's a lovely place, If it wasn't for the UK people messing up Spain, I think, there's many places in Spain that you can have a really nice time there. The time zone's not too bad. It kind of does catch you midday, trading around 3:30 or 4:30 p.m. Spain. I believe so. It's alright. Prefer Dubai time zone, Thailand time zone. Depends where you are in Spain, really. You get mostly the bad things that happen in like Marbella. It's mostly Moroccan related from all the drugs that come in. I'm in Bangkok December 17th if you're about a few cigars and that. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I know some really good spots for a cigar in Bangkok, actually. I'm in Pattaya, but I have someone down here that does have some nice cigars. Got some Romeo Juliets the other day. But, yeah, Bangkok's got a really nice cigar bar. I just don't really like the polluted, very busy city. I'd rather be down near the beach. You know, Portugal, in my opinion, has some of the best steaks in the world. What do you guys think? You know, Portugal's a lovely place. Where do I stay in Thailand? I stay in Pattaya. It's, you know, Pattaya's got its sides. It's a degenerate city, but it's also, you know, that's a choice at the end of the day, whatever you want to do. I just like the point that the police are pretty corrupt here, so I can rip my bike without any concerns. Because if I ride the way that I do in Dubai, which I will end up moving to Dubai completely, but you have to ride a little bit different and only at certain times, certain places. You can't just run red lights and whatever. You end up in a bad way. So you can see, obviously, price continues to retrace and make all-time highs, continue, retrace, all-time highs. And what happens is this kind of bullish order flow that you can see here, it does end up getting, you know, broke with a very, very aggressive downwards move, which you'll likely not catch. And that's when it does give us an opportunity to then take sell side, form a bullish bias, and then catch a move for a retracement on the aggressive move lower. So we're currently waiting for the lunch macro as of now. But anyone who took short today, they've actually lost money. Okay. We can very easily take a trade at any point. Okay. But we look for trades which are valid. And from not taking a trade so far today, we have avoided losses. Where's the Rolls-Royce at the moment? It's currently in Texas in a storage unit, and I am considering on selling it. I am very close to, you know, considering on selling it. Now, the reason being is that they won't let me ship it from the US to Dubai. They won't let me do it because I pay monthly and I put a very fat 50% pretty much deposit down for it. With not being a US citizen, I had to put a big deposit down for it, and they won't let me, as far as the, you know, the finance agreement, they won't let me actually ship it out of the US. So I have kind of no choice, but upon not really returning too much to the US, as far as the next year or so, I might have to consider selling it and repurchasing when I'm in Dubai. What's the car note on it? What do you mean the car note? Where did I buy it from? I bought it from Limited Spec dealership in Miami. That's where a lot of people buy their cars, you know, like. I just searched in on luxury dealership Miami, and then, oh, what was the monthly payment? It was around 7.5k USD a month. So nothing crazy for like a Cullinan, but then if you compare it to like an M4, then an M4 is going to be what, like 500 a month. But yeah, and I've continued even with not having it, paying it, but I'm not using it. So it's like I'm considering on offloading that car, and then when I do get to Dubai and purchase the villa on the Palm, then I'll just secure the villa and the car at the same time. What's your opinion on Aston Martins? I'm actually going to be buying an Aston Martin, the new one, for my dad, but not for myself. Yeah, I'm not really. I think they're, beautiful cars. I see, what I see them as. I see them as a Formula One safety car. So, I'm not here for safety. I'm here for extreme speed. So, I'll buy this safety car for my dad. I was looking at a couple the other day. I like the Vantage, rather. No, Bentleys. No. Bentleys are just cheap versions of the Rolls-Royce. It's like the, what do you call it? It's like the Tesco of Sainsbury's. No. It's like, why wouldn't you shop at M&S, but you choose to go Tesco or Lidl's, right? So Lidl's is like Bentley, and then, so Bentley is just, it's a cheaper made car, isn't it? That's why you'd get Rolls-Royce. Like, for example, like a Bentley Bentayga, they're cheap as anything. They're actually cheap as chips. You can find one 30, 40 bags. Very, very cheap, for a car, which is apparently luxury. You can get a Bentley Bentayga for literally the same price as a BMW. But then you have a Cullinan, and you won't find a Cullinan really below, I would say, 250 USD in a nice spec, an okay spec, 250 USD. That's like the cheapest you'll find a Cullinan. Maserati, yeah, it's the same. Maserati and Bentley's shit. I think the new Maseratis, the newer ones, I've just never really been a fan of those type of cars. Yeah, when I get to Dubai, I'll get one GTR. I'll get it fully spec'd, Nismo, everything, 2000 brake, and I'll repurchase the Cullinan. Yeah, exactly, That could be a consideration. I could purchase an abandoned car in Dubai. Never even thought of that. As long as you get someone to check it over and it's in good condition. Yeah, a big difference when you got the Cullinan is that when I first bought it, it came with the factory wheels, and they look awful. They look so bad. So I got them switched over in a garage, about 5-6k USD, and they have these thin spokes. That makes a big difference. It makes it look like the car's floating. Yeah, I mean, whilst I'm not using the Cullinan, I could rent it out, but then at the same time, I don't want people to look at a purple Cullinan and then see it being driven about, and then it's not by myself, So it just wouldn't really look right. There's no point me renting it out and destroying the car if other people sat in it. I'd rather just offload it and get rid of it, and then repurchase it. But yeah, the most recent purchase was the 2 apartments in Sofagate in Business Bay in Dubai. So if you guys are in Dubai, head down to Business Bay. You will see a construction site where you have Sofagate 1, or I don't even know if I say it right, but it's Sofagate 1, and then they have next to it, they're building Sofagate 2. That's the one that I just bought. They have those 2 there. Does having no high impact economic news events change our approach to taking trades? No. So if there's no news that day, we still approach price normally as we usually would. So nothing changes as far as that. If we have, for example, red folder news, then it can affect whether we are going to monitor price that day. And the days that we don't monitor price action because of red folder news is going to be the official FOMC event on Wednesday. So on Wednesday this week, we don't monitor price during the AM session. Tomorrow, we monitor price all the way through every single macro, the 3 macros we monitor. Thursday this week is a day to monitor price. Friday is a day to monitor price. Monday next week is a day we monitor price. So is Tuesday. So is Wednesday. So is Thursday. No, Thursday next week we don't monitor price, and Friday we do. So Friday's NFP. We don't monitor NFP Thursdays, but we do monitor NFP on Friday when the news is to come out in the 8:30 a.m. before market. You need news to get price moving. Well, I mean, not necessarily, because price action, regardless, is volatile with or without news. Government shutdown or no government shutdown, price action's volatile regardless. Now, usually, if it's during, say the summer month, and let's say price action's died and it's dead, then red folder news can get price to become more volatile. But either way, we're trading at all-time highs, so it is volatile, and red folder news only adds to that slightly, but it's already volatile. Milo, could you say what the tradable days are and the non-tradable days are? Yeah, so we don't trade USD bank holiday. I'll put it in the chat for you guys. So USD bank holiday, FOMC official event, 3 sets, red folder. We do trade FOMC meeting minutes. So FOMC meeting minutes occurs as one set of red folder news inside of the PM session, and this is already anticipated and factored into the price. It's a pre-recorded meeting that the public doesn't know the outcome of it, but the market's already factored it in. It's pre-recorded. FOMC official event on Wednesday this week is a stand-up talking event, which is unpredictable. So that's why we don't trade that day. And market tends to anticipate the PM, and the AM becomes not as volatile. So USD bank holiday, FOMC official event, 3 sets of red folder. You guys can look at that on the Wednesday, the 29th of October. So you'll see that on Forex Factory. And we don't trade Thursday, NFP week, as price tends to anticipate NFP for Friday. And Thursday, you have these massive wicks, very, volatile and unalgorithmic price action, taking out people from their positions unalgorithmically of these big wicks. So we don't trade Thursday. Friday, NFP comes out 8:30. So NFP's done. The rest of Friday, we have data highs, data lows. We have clean sets of liquidity, and it is a nice tradable day. So I don't know why people avoid the Friday, but not the Thursday. The Thursday is the one to avoid. The Friday is the one to monitor price. So any other days that we don't monitor? That's about it. We wouldn't monitor, so no AM session monitor if Trump / Powell is speaking at 10 a.m. That's it. So that's the only times that we wouldn't monitor price. Hopefully that makes sense. So you have them in the chat. You guys can see there. USD bank holiday, FOMC official event, Thursday NFP, no AM session monitor, if Trump / Powell is speaking at 10 a.m. Is the model still valid after the AM session? Yeah, I mean, if the model presents itself and the requirements are met, you can essentially trade this model at any time. So you can trade during the PM, or you can trade at the end of the lunch. So the macros lies the last 15 and the first 15 minutes of the hour, and there's macros throughout the whole trading day. You can trade during London, Asia, PM, end of lunch, whenever you choose. Now, outside of New York and the first three macros, the macros that are, say, second to best would be inside of either the PM from Tuesday onwards to the end of the week. If you have a slow AM, then the PM can sometimes produce some sort of cleaner opportunity. And Asia is dead. Asia's dead. There's no volatility in Asia. London is second to best. So, London from the 2:45, 3:15 and 3:45 to 4:15 AM New York local time is the second to best two macros to monitor. Now, I don't recommend you guys even bother and waste your time with that session there. For those of you that are in the US, it's pretty much impossible to wake up for London. There's no point. London's lower volatility, and there is less confluences, such as like a Judas swing and a clean power free movement at the New York Open. And how many times does London present a clean opportunity in those two macros? It's a lot less and not really worth your time. It's best to just monitor the first three macros inside of New York. So yeah, the answer to that question is still valid. I just wouldn't bother with monitoring London. So inside of London, you'll probably be risking about 5 to 10 handles on a stop loss, aiming for about 20-30 points. That's how the volatility is so low. But yeah, it goes number 1 New York, then London, then New York PM, then Asia. I mean, Asia's there for those of you that want to lose brain cells and just really, really get bored with price action. Asia's right there. London is many less opportunities, and you'll be sat there more times than not waiting for an opportunity to present itself. So sticking to the New York AM session allows you to, not actually be monitoring price pretty much all day. You just monitor these three macros, and that is all that you need. Right, so we just inverse the 5, which is going to make the 5-minute bearish. The 15-minute is going to be neutral still. 1 hour is neutral. So higher time frames completely neutral, and the 5-minute is bearish. There is no shift in market structure on NQ. So no trade. And there is no shift on ES either. So yes, the 5-minute has shifted bearish. Intraday is slightly bearish. It's a weak bearish bias, but it's still there. So you can see there is price trades lower, does not shift market structure, and there's no gap on NQ or ES. So the draw on the 5-minute is towards this 5-minute low, which you can see here resting at minor sell side. So yes, we do have a bearish bias as of now. A sweep of buy side, so we are looking for a shift in market structure. We have this bullish order block that price is currently trading out of. So this low also on ES. Milo, why that bullish order block and not one further up? Because if price actually shifts market structure below this low, after taking out this short-term high, we've already swept buy side, okay? We've taken out the short-term high, we have a bullish order block here, and if this gets inverse, this potentially can be paired with a fair value gap that we then further see a shift lower in market structure. In my chart, the short-term high has not been taken. It is because you are on the micro, potentially. So make sure when you monitor price action that you are monitoring on NQ Z 2025. So you're on the December contract, on the full contract, not the micro. So the micro and the mini is going to have a slight difference between the two. So make sure you execute on the micro and monitor on the full contract. But yeah, if any of you guys got a question that you want to ask, then feel free to do so and get it off your chest, you know, because there's not anything right now that we are able to take. Price failed to displace low on NQ, didn't even consider on ES. It's traded back to the highs and it's making another all-time high, bearish SMT on NQ. So if there's anything to do with bias or in regards to the checklist that you want to ask in the chat, by all means ask the question that you are thinking. Yeah, NQ1, yeah, that is the continuous rolling contract. I recommend you trade just December 2025, make things all the same. So it's NQZ 2025. Yeah, for those of you on funded accounts with prop firms that, you know, require you to take a trade within a 5-day period, that's a good question by can't even never say your name. Muneb Mub Ishar. I'll just call you Ishar. So Ishar had a great question, right, about prop firms and you must trade within 5 days. Now, obviously we haven't taken any trades in around a week now, okay, since last Monday. Now, what I actually recommend is that you just execute a long now, if you have a funded account, on a micro. So take a long, close it out within a second, so a millisecond. You'll lose like $2, one micro. You enter long, close out straight away, and that it just keeps your accounts active to make sure that your accounts are not closed for inactivity. I know it sounds stupid. Live accounts, they don't have it's a live account, right? But as far as prop firms, they do have rules, underlying rules like that, so you need to make sure that your accounts are not closed. I believe Top Step's 30 days actually. If you don't take a trade in 30 days, I believe Top Step can deactivate your funded account. But what I personally do, if I don't take a trade for around 4 or 5 days, I don't really take note of it, to be honest, but I do execute on the micro with one micro on TradeSync and all of my accounts apart from live, and just to make sure that I'm on the safer side. I don't follow the rules one-to-one to understand each one of the prop firms that I'm working with to see where my account will get deactivated after a certain amount of trading days, but I know the minimum or maximum requirement is around 5 trading days. So around 4 or 5 trading days, if I don't take a position, I just execute on the micro with one micro straight away and then exit from the position. Yeah, and obviously, whilst we monitor price as of now, I know there's been no positions that we have taken in, you know, quite a few days. We've avoided many losses. Now, I could sit here and push trades out to you guys, you know, 5 different non-valid trades per day, and there is absolutely no point in me guide you guys down the wrong path, obviously to unprofitability of taking non-valid trades to think, oh yes, we took a trade today. Who cares, right? We're here to take trades that are valid, okay? Now, this is not my intrusive thoughts thinking about the group and you guys watching, right? But I'm putting this as a standpoint to what's realistic when you're trading this model, okay? Because you're not going to get positions every single day, and sometimes it does sit for about a week where we don't take a position. And if you've watched in the past of where my Instagram has been dead and people have asked if I'm still alive, it's because I've not taken a position. And this is exactly what it's like when we monitor price and there isn't anything valid to take. And if you was to take any sort of short today, like all the other ICT traders, they would take shorts between these periods here. Around, I'd say 3 out of 5 of them got stopped, and one of them got break even, whatever. So this just proves to you that the thought process and the probability of taking no trades today so far with not actually having a valid position to take was the right choice. We've risked no capital at all and not missed out on anything. Nothing. Same with last week as well. We've saved money throughout the course of today's period and also last week. And the week before we capitalized and we closed in a profit. The week prior was meant to be a 4.2R week, but it was 2.2R. We will see how we close this week, but so far I'm into closing the month at 5.2R and a profit. We'll see whether we get any positions for this week to bump it up to around 7 or 8R on the month. We'll see. Any day that you don't lose money in the market, any day that you don't make a bad decision or trade outside of the model is a great day. We have this shutdown at all-time highs. Institution money can short because if the government opens, PA could run. They may buy, likely sidelines until it opens. PA feels like it's drifting up. I think you're just overthinking it, brother, to be honest. You're definitely just overthinking what potentially, you know, could be happening behind the scenes. But yeah, you know, when you're monitoring price and not taking any trades, then yeah, that kind of is exactly what happens, you know. You start to speculate. So obviously the 5-minute inverse of being bearish has now taken out the high, and we're not going to take the 5-minute inverse to then be a bearish confluence anymore because prices continue to trade higher and taken out a high now. So we're currently completely neutral on the 5. So the actual inverse didn't cause price action to be bearish. It traded higher and then ended up taking a high. So it's neutral following the other time frames as well, which has pretty much been the same of each macro that we've monitored today. And this has actually led us to the end of the stream today, guys. So hopefully you found this live stream insightful. And I know we've not taken any positions today, and I'm not here to avoid positions, opportunities that are presented, we're here to capitalize and take it immediately, right, as you guys have seen in the past. And there hasn't been anything for us to take today, and anyone who did take shorts got stopped out numerous times, as I told you before the first day of macro even started. And of course, we will be live tomorrow at 9:20 a.m. New York local time, as usual, every single day. Obviously today, the electricity caused me to start around the, start of the macro. But we had everything down and everything marked out, so it was all good. And I will speak to you guys tomorrow at 9:20 a.m. So have a great rest of your morning, evening, wherever abouts you are. I'll upload this stream on YouTube, so if you want to rewatch it, feel free to do so. I'll speak to you guys shortly. Take it easy.